there, Amy here with Leap of Faith Crafting. Thanks so much for stopping by. So today we are going to be talking all about stencils, making them with a Cricut and how to go about that. So we are going to be going over two different types of stencils. We're going to be going over a one-time use stencil, and we are going to be trying out the new Cricut material that they sent me. This is the Smart stencil for the Cricut Joy, and then they also have a stencil vinyl for the larger Cricuts too. So we are going to be comparing this to removable vinyl, permanent vinyl, and actually contact paper, and to see which one works the best. So we're going to be checking out all these different things, and then we're going to move on and work on some reusable stencils. And so for the reusable stencils, I wanted to try out quite a few different products and see which one worked the best. So you're going to be learning alongside with me as I try these out. We are going to be trying some Mylar sheets, and a laminating sheet. This is a laminating sheet that I already put through my laminator, so it's double-sided. We are going to be trying also foil acetate. I'm going to use this a Cricut brand because this is what I have on hand, and then also a poster board, a clear poster board material that I found at a local craft store. And then I'm going to be using two different types of adhesives to see which one works better. We're going to be using the Krylon Easy Tack, and then this is a Stencil E spray adhesive. So we're going to try all of these, and I will link all of these below. Most of them I got off Amazon, some at local craft stores. So the great thing about making stencils is that you can actually use any of the Cricut machines for them. So I actually was able to cut out all of the reusable stencils with my Cricut Joy. I was actually kind of surprised, so it was kind of a cool process, and we're going to be going through that on how to cut kind of a little bit thicker sheets. But obviously the size is going to be limited with the Cricut Joy, but to make small stencils it's great. And then I'm also going to be using my Maker, but the Explorer works great too to all of these. So we're going to be cutting out quite a few different ones, and then I'm going to be using the stencil on wood and also on fabric to see which one works best. So we're going to get into Design Space, and I'm going to show you a few things on designing stencils in there, and then we're going to jump into making all these different kinds of stencils. Okay, so we're just going to jump into Design Space, and I'm just going to show you how to make a couple different stencils. The first one is this Love one that I have that I'm using on one of my projects with the one-time stencil. So the easiest way I think to use a text or a word stencil is to use actually a stencil font. So if you go, I just clicked on text and up on the font here. If you actually type in stencil, you'll see a bunch of them actually come up, and these are specific for stencils. I actually found one that I downloaded that was free online, and it was called, what was it called? Actually, it's what this is. It's called Beprity, Beprity, and I'll link it below where I found it. It was just on a free font site. So I'm just going to come in here. I have two. Okay, so I just typed the word love. And the nice thing about the stencil fonts is, let me make this bigger so you can see, is that they already have these cutouts. So everything is one smooth thing. The problem with words a lot of time is that the E will get knocked out, the L, and you have to, if you're using a reusable one, it gets really tricky because these ones won't pull up when you're pulling up on your mat. They won't stay with your stencil. So if you're making a reusable stencil, I recommend using a stencil font. And all you need to do is once you come in here, you'll see that these aren't attached or welded together. So I'm just going to click on weld, and you'll see now they're all together. And for me, the easiest way to do a stencil is actually to put a square behind it. So I'm just going to grab a shape here. We're going to put in a rectangle, and I'm going to make it bigger than my font. I'm just going to make it a different color so you can see here. And then I'm going to arrange it and move it to the back. So it's behind my lettering here. And so you can make it as big as you want. This is where the paint will kind of go when you use it. So I like to make it a little bit bigger. And so now we just need to slice it out. So I'm going to use my cursor, drag it over these two, and hit slice. Okay, so now I have my stencil there all ready to cut out. Okay, so that's using letters or a word. I'm just going to show you real quick, same thing on how I got my lotus flower. So I'm going to go into images over here, and actually I'm going to type in lotus and find it. So the best images to use are the ones that actually have kind of the cuts in between them or openings. So something like this would, so you don't want anything inside of other areas if you're using a reusable one. Let's see. Okay, so I found this one right here. And so it has these areas next to it, which the open areas, which work great with a stencil. And then there's nothing inside of here. So that also is a bonus. So I'm going to add this to my canvas. And same thing as the other one, I'm just going to grab a shape, put a square behind it, and then I'm going to move this to the back because it always comes in the front. And I'm going to unlock it here so I can make this longer. And again, just kind of as big as you want it. And again, now I'm going to go ahead and just slice that out. So grabbing both of them by dragging my cursor over, or the other option is you can come over and click your layers on your layer panel. But I'm just going to drag my cursor over and click slice. And now we have our nice flower for that. I'm just going to delete that off. So I wanted to show you this one I made with a turtle. So just to show you what wouldn't work great for a reusable stencil. So it's kind of hard to visualize unless you actually cut it and then try to take it off your mat. But if you were to cut this and take it off your mat, these parts are all connected to the outside, so it would work, but all these parts inside will not pull up. So when you pull this off your mat, you'll just get the big circle right here. So you don't want these insides if you're doing a reusable one. If you're using like a vinyl or the stencil film that will actually stick to it and you use transfer paper to use it, then this would be perfectly fine. But if you're not using transfer paper, these things are not going to transfer, and you're just left with the outside turtle. So I just wanted to show you that because not all images will make great stencil ones. And then I did want to show you this one that I made, and it's just to show you that you can make, you know, kind of your own images out of things that are in here. So again, I think this was under flower. So I just scrolled down and found kind of a flower that I like, but it's a single petal. It's this right here. Okay, so this is in 80 FC9 CD there. So if I put it in here, you'll see I just made it into a 4. So this is kind of, you know, if you want a pattern of something, and like I said, these are great because there's nothing inside of these, so they will cut out nicely. So all I did was I duplicated this up on the right side here, and then I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees. So up here on the rotate part, I'm just going to type in 90. Actually, I want this one 180. So I'm going to do 180. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of space them apart. And then I'm going to use my cursor to grab both of them, and I'm going to align them. I'm going to center them horizontally. Okay, and then I'm actually going to group these together. So they're one. To make it easy for the other side, I'm just going to duplicate this one. And then, so now I have 2. And then I'm just going to rotate this one by 90 degrees and kind of stick them right here. And again, I'm going to go into a line. I'm going to line these center, center. So they align vertically and horizontally. Okay, so now that I have all of these, I'm going to weld them together, because if I want to slice them out, you can only slice one layer out. So if you find you're having problems slicing things out, try to weld it first, because if it's just attached, it won't slice. So I'm going to click weld, and then again, grab that square. So click on shapes, any kind of square. You can do a circle, you can really do anything. Send that to the back. Probably don't need that big of a square. Okay, grab them both and slice them out. Okay, so there is my stencil right there. Okay, so okay, so I'm going to cut out, I'm just going to hide these other ones because I have a lot on here. So I'm just going to cut out this love one on my Cricut Joy. And I'm going to do for Cricut Smart material, because I'm using the stencil. I'm going to click continue, and you'll see it just kind of lays out there. And continue. It's going to connect to my Joy. And then I'm just going to browse all materials. And you can go into vinyl. And right here is the Smart stencil. So I'm going to click on there. I'm going to click done. And then we're going to load it in and cut this one out. So we're doing the one-time use stencils. And then I will come back and we're going to cut out the reusable stencils so I can show you both of them. Okay, so the Smart stencil will come already wound up. So for the Cricut Joy, we're just going to put it underneath those rollers and it's going to grab it. And then I'm going to press go on my laptop and it will cut out. Okay, so it stopped and it was all done. So I like to use my trimmer. Okay, so I have my stencil here, and I'm just going to weed off the excess, and then the letters in here, and this is okay, so it's super easy to weed. I do like using this stuff. So now I'm going to use my Cricut mat for my Cricut Joy and cut out a piece of Cricut reusable vinyl, a piece of Cricut permanent vinyl, and then we'll do the contact paper. Checking a few other ones just to see what works the best. So I cut out a removable Cricut vinyl one, and this is a permanent vinyl, and then this is just some contact paper from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to put this on here. And this, since it's contact paper, I put it as a vinyl setting, which looks like it was a little bit too strong. So I probably would put less pressure on. Okay, so then I already have the stencil vinyl, so I'm going to try all 4 of these. I'm just going to put them on just some basic wood, and these are actually not even sanded. So I'm just going to try them and kind of see what kind of takes the most give and sticks the best for these. So we're going to use some transfer tape. Really well. And then we're going to pull the transfer sheet off. So with stencils, you want to make sure that it's pressed down really well, right where there is the edges of the letters or the image, whatever you're using. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing and apply the other ones, and even use the same transfer sheet. Okay, so this one is nice because it actually has the grid lines on it. So if you were aligning it to something, okay, so I like to use chalk paint. I just think it's easier to work with. This is just a Waverly, and then I'm just using some wooden stencil brushes. Okay, so I'm going to let these dry, kind of dry to the touch, and then we will peel them off. You know, some people will pull them off when they're wet to prevent kind of the paint getting pulled up. I've done that before, and you just have to be really careful that it doesn't fold back on each other or that you spread paint somewhere else. So I'm just going to let them dry a little bit so they're just kind of dry to the touch, and then pull them off. So with chalk paint, it dries super fast. So I'm probably only going to let them dry about 10 minutes or so, and then we will come back and check them out. Okay, so they have dried for about 10 minutes or so. So now I'm going to remove them, and I'm just going to label them once I take it off because I want to remember what it is. So as I mentioned, this was a stencil font, so it should kind of come up as one. So like some of those E's. And sometimes I like to cut it so I know I'm not gonna fold it in on each other and get paint on my wood. Sometimes if I get it there, I can kind of just scrape it off a little bit while it's wet. Okay, so I'm just going to remove all the other ones. Okay, so there are all of them. So it's a little bit, they actually all worked really well. The stencil one, I could feel it when I was pulling it up that it actually stuck the best to the wood. So if you were to have more of an uneven wood, I think that that one would be the best. And the lines are super crisp on that one. A little bit less, I am seeing a little bit less crisp on the vinyls. The permanent vinyl was a little bit harder to remove and I had little extra problems there, but for the most part, there's quite a few ways to use stencil materials on wood like that. So if you're in a pinch and you only have vinyl, permanent or removable, you can use it. Again, these are just the one-off, so obviously when I pulled it off, I can't use this again. But I think I would lean more to using the stencil than my vinyls now, because this is a little bit crisper than those. So, okay, so that's how to do kind of a quick stencil with a removable one. Okay, so now we're gonna cut these out. So I'm not gonna go through and talk about cutting each one out because the process is the same. So the first one I'm gonna do is the foil acetate. So I'm gonna put this on here. And I always like to use my brayer just to make sure it's really stuck down there. And then, see if you can see my computer here. I'm gonna go into materials and I just like to type in acetate. And it comes up acetate and foil acetate. So I'm just gonna select my foil acetate. Okay, and once my flashing light is going, I'm gonna press that and let the Cricut cut everything out. And then I'm gonna cut out all the other materials too, and I'm just gonna speed this up so you don't need to watch it cut everything out. Okay, so everything's done and it did cut the 2 passes on its own. So we're gonna take this out. And it doesn't come totally up at once. Oops. Take this off, and I actually forgot to take the sheet off of this. So the foil acetate actually comes with a sheet, which I totally forgot, so I didn't take that off. So that's, you can see, actually is stuck on the bottom, but it shouldn't be an issue, hopefully. Okay, so if you can see there, we have one of ours and acetate. So I'm just going to keep doing this and cut all the other ones out. Okay, so up next we are going to do this clear poster board. Okay, so for the Mylar sheet, I've gone through quite a few sheets because it hasn't quite worked yet. So I think what I've decided is the best for my machine is we're going to go into acetate, and acetate actually is a pressure of 350 and it cuts 3 times. The foil acetate only cuts 2 times. So I'm going to do acetate, and then I'm actually going to change the default pressure to more. Okay, so we're going to do that. The regular pressure quite didn't seem strong enough. It still cut it out, but some of the parts weren't perfectly cut out, and for a stencil we want it good. So we're going to try that. Okay, so now we're going to get into painting with the stencils, but I did want to show you that I was able to cut out all the same material, the mylar, the poster board, the laminating sheet, and a foil acetate with my Cricut Joy. I just cut these to size and put them on a green cutting mat, and I set them, I have it in my blog post, I'll put them below too on what the settings I used. I used foil acetate for these two, and then I used foil acetate and changed the setting to the pressure to more for these mylar and the poster board, and it worked. So if you have a Cricut Joy, you can definitely make smaller stencils with that. So I wanted to show you that, but now we are going to try these different stencils. So nothing real technical. We're just going to put it on a piece of wood first. Okay, so one of them I'm just going to use blue painter's tape. And then these are the 2 poster board that we're trying first. So with the other one, read the directions on the stuff that you have. I'm going to spray just the back of the stencil and let it dry, and then position it. But with these things, you want to make sure you're in a ventilated area or have a window open. I have my window open. Okay, so I'm going to just put a piece of paper down for the spray. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly spray that all over and let it dry for a few minutes. So this is really smelly, this one. So if you have issues with fumes, you're definitely going to smell that one. Okay, so that's actually pretty dry. So I'm going to put this, position it on here, and press it down. Okay, and then again, same thing, I'm using the same chalk paint, the Waverly. I think I got, I don't know if from Joann or Walmart or something, and then just a stencil brush. So it's going to go directly down. So this one I can tell is definitely stuck better. Okay, so I'm going to lift up just the one, and you can see that it did leak with just the blue painter's tape. This side actually did really well. But over on that side. So painter's tape, definitely an option if it was smaller and probably taped on all 4 sides. Probably a little better, but I'm going to wash that one. And so after this, I'm just going to remove that, and that looks beautiful. Okay, and it just came right up There's actually not any sticky stuff around it from the adhesive. So that one worked well. So now I'm just gonna wash this one and use the Easy Tack on it and we'll compare there. Okay, so I just quickly ran water over this. I didn't even use soap. So I just used my fingers and ran some water and it came off very nicely. The chalk paint, so now we're gonna use the Easy Tack one. I'm gonna do the same thing. Lightly spray the back of it. Okay, so we're just gonna let it dry for about a minute. And okay, so now it's just sticky and not wet. So again, these are all the clear poster board I'm doing first. I'm going to do the same thing with the rest, so we can see if one material worked better than the other. Okay. So that worked really nice too. And yep, I'm not feeling any of the tacky things there. Okay, so there are the 3 poster board ones. And poster board, Krylon. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing with the other things. I'm going to speed it up, and then I'll just show you the end results on which one, if one worked better than the other. Okay, so this was the foil acetate that I did, and this is with the stencil spray, and this is with the Krylon spray. It worked okay. There was definitely some more leakages on with using that. So this was the double-sided laminating sheet, and it actually did really well. I was surprised. It was a little flimsier to work with, but the lines are really crisp. This is with the spray adhesive, and this is with the Krylon. The stencil adhesive, I feel like, gives a little bit crisper of results. And then here is the Mylar sheet, which I got a few leaks on both of them. But it also, it could be a little bit of user error if I didn't really press down on those 2 spots right there. That could be it too. Then here's the poster board one, and for me, this is the one that came out the best of all of them. So this was the poster board stencil with the spray adhesive, the Stencil Ease repositional. And I'm not getting really any stickiness. So for me, for reusable stencil being the most cost effective and how well they came out, I think I would go with the poster board. I just got it at, I believe Michael's. It was $2 for the 24 by 36, and you just can cut it into squares of what you need, and it cut out great. And then the sprays, not a huge difference for me. I would probably go with the cheaper one, or one I could find. If I had to pick one, I'd say maybe the Stencil Ease spray adhesive worked maybe slightly better on some of them, but all in all the things could work. Just make sure you get it pressed down really well in all the areas that you're doing. But like I said, cost effective for $2. I could make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of 12 by 12 out of that. which was cheaper than the Mylar. Definitely cheap, you know, cheaper than laminating sheets. If you have that at home and that's all you have, it will work. Like I said, they all work, but if you were to go out and just want to get one product, I think I would stick to the clear poster board. Okay, so I just wanted to try real quick on fabric. And just see. I'm going to put a piece of cardstock and my shirt here on a piece of wood. This is just 100% cotton shirt. So I just wanted to see what would stick on it. So I am going to actually use the stencil vinyl first. Okay, I actually stuck to that. Like I said, I haven't done any of these, so then I wanted to try the, no, I'm not reusing any of these, so I'm just going to spray. I'm going to use the poster board one on here, but let's see what this one does. So that actually works pretty well. I took off a little bit on that side there. So that actually worked on fabric. Obviously, if I was just doing a real project and not just trying this, I would be taking more care with it. But then just getting some tweezers and pulling it off. Actually very impressed on how that worked. Okay, so if you're using fabric, can definitely play around. And this was the stencil, the Cricut stencil, the Smart vinyl, and that worked really well. This one was the poster board with the spray adhesive, and that works pretty well. The problem with that is that it is a little bit sticky on the side, where this doesn't have any of the stickiness. So one thing maybe to be mindful, maybe this part wasn't dry enough because I'm only getting sticky on the top and not the bottom. Okay, so, and the sprays are flammable, so be careful with them. But anyway, I hope this gives you kind of an idea of what you can do with stenciling when making them with a Cricut and the different type of materials you can use. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you don't want to miss any more of these videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Happy crafting!